everybody. My name is Matt Iantosca. I'm the Director of the Wealth Management Division here at Gerber Kawasaki. And today we're lucky to have Michelle O'Haron from Pacific Life. She is in the Retirement Solutions Division. Michelle and I have worked together on many client cases, as well as doing another seminar years ago in person. So we're very lucky to have Michelle, who is an expert in everything retirement planning, but specifically today we're going to discuss Social Security strategies. So I'm going to let Michelle take over and have a presentation. And then if you guys have any questions, feel free to type them in along the way. And then we'll pull those up at the end and hopefully answer any specific questions that you might have. So thank you for being here, Michelle, and I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you all for joining us today. And as Matt said, we're going to talk about Social Security. So we'll go ahead and jump into our presentation. Our next slide will tell you once again that it's Matt and myself who are doing our presentation today. But we want to talk about Social Security and some of the decisions that you're looking at making as you choose when you should take your Social Security benefit. So starting out on our next slide, what we're going to talk about today is the structure of the program. And we're going to try to help you build a framework for making a good decision. So for a Social Security decision, the right decision can mean the difference of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. But one of the things that you'll see as we go through talking about Social Security is the right decision is the right decision for you. It's not going to be the same decision for everyone. So we're going to talk about how one becomes eligible to receive retirement benefits, and that's by working. So we're going to talk about that work and the benefits that it makes you eligible to receive. In addition, when someone does work, it can create benefits for dependents like their spouse. And we'll talk about how that works. And also, if a spouse is married and also working on their own, how that works with respect to benefits. And then we'll talk about some of the next steps. So as we jump in order to get a Social Security benefit, when we talk about Social Security, we're actually talking about a number of different types of programs. So under Social Security, there are two disability programs. And in order to receive a disability benefit, a person needs to be currently insured under the definition, certain number of credits currently within the last 10 years, often younger than 62 because with one of the programs, it's just based on your physical incapacity. And so you start out on a disability benefit and then it switches to a retirement benefit at full retirement age. But we're not going to talk about disability today. That's all that we're going to cover with respect to disability. What we want to focus in on is the retirement benefit. And in order to receive a retirement benefit, you have to be fully insured, 62 or older, and that's what we're going to focus in on. So as we go to our next slide, we'll see that the way that you become eligible to receive a Social Security retirement benefit is to work. And what you want to be is fully and permanently insured. And you become fully and permanently insured by getting 40 credits. You get a credit by earning income. This year, it's $1,640 for a quarter. The most you can earn, the highest number of credits you can earn in a year is 4. So whether you make $6,000 or $6 million, 4 is the maximum number of credits for a year. You need 40. So you've got to have 10 years of work to get to your 40 credits. That makes you fully and permanently insured, which assures your eligibility for a retirement benefit. Okay, so now that we're eligible, the thing that we're even more concerned about as we go to our next slide is, what do you get? Well, what you get will depend on your primary insurance amount and when you claim your benefit. So the earliest that you can start to take a retirement benefit is at age 62. And that will be the smallest benefit that you're eligible to receive. You get 100% at full retirement age. Full retirement age depends on the year that you were born, and it ranges from 65 to 67. Right now, we're in a period of where we're phasing in the 55 to 60. It goes 66 in a couple of months. Then you get to 1960 and later, and it's 67. If you wait beyond full retirement age to take your benefit, then you're eligible to receive delayed retirement credits, 8% per year. Those stop at age 70. That's your maximum benefit. If you hadn't claimed your benefit before then, you could go ahead and take it at 70. So our next slide shows us what those years are, the birth years and the different full retirement ages. So as we said, 1937 and prior, it was 65. Then you see at different ages, it starts to go up. We're now getting to the point where people turning 62 were 60 and later. So theirs will be 67. If you were born in the 50s, once again, 55 to 60, you see it's 66 in a couple of months, depending on what year you were born. So you look to your birth year, and that'll tell you your full retirement age, 100% at full retirement age. Our next slide. But we're really concerned about two different things. So we said we get in by being fully insured, but what we're concerned about is what's the amount of the benefit. So your 10 years entitles you to a benefit, and then 35 years determines what the amount of that benefit is going to be. So as we go into our next slide to take a look at what we're talking about when we talk about that 35 years. Your Social Security benefit is based on your primary insurance amount. And what Social Security does is it looks over your earnings history. It indexes your earnings for inflation up until age 60. Then it pulls out your highest 35 years of earnings on a monthly basis. It adds all those numbers together, divides it by 420. That's your average index monthly earnings. And then to that, there are a couple of other things that can impact the amount of your primary insurance amount. And those are the windfall elimination provision. If you've worked under a pension where you didn't contribute to Social Security, it can have an impact. And also when you elect to start to receive your benefits. As we just went through, depending on what age you take your benefits, it will impact the amount of the benefits. But you see at the bottom of this slide, for somebody who had maxed out Social Security for 35 years and was turning their full retirement age this year, their benefit would be $3,627. So somebody retiring at full retirement age this year, that's the highest benefit they would be eligible to receive. It's not a statutory maximum. It's just the result of the calculation, and it changes every year. If we were to look at everybody taking Social Security in general, the average benefit is $1,827. So one of the things you note looking at those numbers is that's probably not going to be enough to live on. So we want to make a good choice about Social Security, and we want to consider what our other assets are to build our retirement income. So let's go to the next slide and talk about the plus and minuses of that calculation that I just mentioned. So the basis of your benefit is the primary insurance amount, and it's based on the highest 35 years of earnings. But keep in mind, when you're paying your Social Security taxes, you only pay them on wages up to a certain amount. So you see on the slide this year, $160,200. You pay Social Security taxes up to the annual wage maximum, and then income beyond that is not subject to Social Security taxes. So the benefits use that same number in the calculation as well. What if I am looking at my Social Security statement and I'm trying to figure out whether to take my benefit, and I look and I notice, well, I don't have 35 years of earnings in on that statement. What happens then? Well, Social Security is going to put in 0 for the years that I'm lacking in terms of my calculation. So as you're thinking about Social Security and you're considering retiring before you've gotten to 35 years, one of the things to think about is that 0 that will be put in for the rest of the years and the potential for it to bring down the amount of your benefit. The other thing that can impact your Social Security, as I mentioned, is the windfall elimination provision. So if you worked under a government pension where you didn't contribute to Social Security and you also worked under Social Security, then you may be impacted by the windfall elimination provision. And what that can do is reduce the amount of your Social Security benefit. And the way that the windfall elimination provision works is very individual because it depends on how many years of substantial earnings you had under Social Security. If you had 30 years of substantial earnings under Social Security, there's no impact. But if you had fewer than 30 years, what it will do is reduce one of the factors in the calculation of your benefits. And so it can bring down the amount of your benefit. The one that's on your retirement benefit, the calculation on your retirement benefit, the windfall elimination provision is capped. So it can reduce, but will not eliminate your Social Security benefit. But there is a provision related to dependent benefits, the government pension offset, that could eliminate those. And then the last thing that impacts the amount of the benefit is when do you take it? So we said you've got reductions if you take early, increases if you wait. And so you look at each of those factors and your primary insurance amount to determine what your benefit will be depending on when you want to take it. Now, one of the reasons that we mentioned the windfall elimination provision is it is not on your Social Security statement. So if you are a person who's impacted by the windfall elimination provision, your benefit on your statement may be overstated, and you want to contact Social Security and see what the impact will be for you. They do have a good piece on their website that tells you every year what the amount of the earnings would be for substantial earnings. So something to take a look at if that's something that might impact you. So on our next slide, we can see reflected what the impact of that claiming decision means in terms of dollars. So if my benefit at my full retirement age, my primary insurance amount was $2,000, and I claimed my benefit at 62, if my full retirement age is 67, I claim my benefit at 62, I would have a 30% reduction. If my primary insurance amount was $2,000, that would mean $1,400 at 62. If I waited up until age 70 and got my delayed retirement credits, that $2,000 would be $2,480. But those numbers aren't actually correct, because once you get to 62, they will start to include the cost of living adjustment in the calculation of your Social Security benefits. So some of you may have experienced this year, last year, the increase for this year would be 8.7%. If you had looked at your benefit last year and you looked at your benefit this year and at your 62 and over, you will see that that amount is calculated in your benefit, even if you're not taking your benefit. So once you become eligible to receive the benefit, the cost of living adjustment applies. And so you may have seen that increase even if you're not taking your benefit. All right, our next slide. So when we're talking about or thinking about when should I take my Social Security benefit, here's some of the decision-making process that we walk through. You're getting to the point where you're eligible to receive a benefit, and you're trying to decide whether or not to take it. So the first question that you're going to look at is, do I need the income? Or do I have other sources, or am I still working? The next thing we've got to think about is, are you younger than your full retirement age and still working? Because if you are, we have to be aware of the earnings test and the impact that that can have on benefits. The big thing that we have to think about with respect to Social Security is, how long do I think I and my spouse, or I or my spouse, are going to live? Social Security benefits are based on an actuarially determined life expectancy. So you start with a smaller number at 62, and it goes up as you go along, so that whenever you take it, you get to the same number by life expectancy. So you're the variable for your Social Security decisions. If you think that you've got a long life expectancy, then waiting for a higher benefit and living a long period of time will be how you get the most out of Social Security. But the decision making that you may be doing might be different than that, because the answer may be different if you're trying to determine, how do I accumulate the most assets over my lifetime? Or what if I don't think I have a long life expectancy? So you've got to think about those factors as well. And if you're a single person trying to decide, it's kind of a numbers game, and you're looking at those three factors. But if you are married, you also have to keep in mind that the higher benefit will be the surviving spouse's survivor benefit. So let's say, for example, that in my family, it was work, 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 fall over dead. And I'm the higher income spouse in my marriage. Well, as a single person, I would probably take my benefit earlier because I would want to recapture some of the investment that I've made in Social Security. But let's say my husband's family, and my husband's father's 91 right now, is breezed past 100 with a sweet iced tea in one hand and a cigarette in the other hand. Well, now, because I'm the higher income spouse, I have to think about it because my benefit will be his survivor benefit. And so when you're looking at planning as a couple, you have to keep that survivor benefit in mind as well. All right, so moving on to our next slide. As one of the things I mentioned is if you're going to take early and you keep working, you have to be aware of the earnings test. So if you claim your benefit before full retirement age and you continue to work, what Social Security will do is reduce your benefit if you earn more than a certain amount. So for the years before you turn your full retirement age, they will reduce your benefit $1 for every two that you earn over $21,240. In the year that you turn your full retirement age, they take away less. They take away $1 for every three over $56,250. These numbers change every year. The numbers that we're looking at are the numbers for this year. Once you get to your full retirement age, you can work as much as you want. That's not good news for everybody, but this goes away. Thanks to the Senior Citizens Right to Work Act of 2001, once you hit your full retirement age, you can work and your Social Security benefit will not be negatively impacted. So if you're thinking about claiming your benefit early and you're continuing to work, bear in mind that you're working, you're going to be paying Social Security taxes on that money. You may be paying income taxes on the benefits that you take, and your benefit may be reduced because of the income that you're earning. So how much of the benefit are you going to be able to keep in that case? If you are in this situation and you do have your benefit reduced, once you get to full retirement age, you will start to get some of that money back. All right, so on our next slide, we also said that when we're looking as a couple, that a person who is married is eligible for a dependent benefit. And in order to get a dependent benefit, your spouse, you have to have a qualifying marriage. And when you're married, your spouse has to have claimed their benefit. So for a dependent retirement benefit, the worker has to have filed for their benefit. The qualifying marriage is at least 1 year, and the dependent spouse is at least age 62 or can be any age if caring for a worker's minor or disabled child. What do I mean? Well, let's say you have, and this almost never happens in California, you have one spouse who is significantly older than the other spouse, and they have young children. So when the older spouse claims their Social Security benefit, that would make the younger spouse who is caring for the minor children also eligible for a Social Security benefit, as well as the minor children. And that benefit will pay for the spouse until the youngest child is 16. There's also a benefit for the children that pays until they're 18 or if they're still full-time in high school until they're 19. All right, so on our next slide. So what if we have a worker who is the one whose benefit that we're looking at and a dependent spouse, and they're the same age? So husband is the primary worker, $2,000 primary insurance amount, dependent spouse, same age. So at full retirement age, the maximum the dependent benefit, retirement benefit will be is 50%. She's eligible for $1,000. So if he takes his, then she can take hers, and they'll have $3,000 a month. So on our next slide, what if they waited until 70? Now, if they waited until 70, his benefit will grow to $2,480. Her benefit, the dependent benefit, does not increase above the 50% at full retirement age. And so his grows to $2,480, but hers is still $1,000. So if they wait until 70, instead of 3,000, they're eligible for 3,480. In the past, there were some strategies that allowed people to claim their Social Security benefits or the dependent spouse at full retirement age, and then they could get more later. Since the changes back in 2015, it's for married people kind of all or nothing. If he waits, then she has to wait. So one of the things that you're looking at is how long does it take to break even on the difference between $3,000 a month and $3,480? Because what did we not get while we were waiting for it to grow? We didn't get the $3,000 a month. So let's see through this test your knowledge what I'm talking about. For a worker to get delayed retirement credits from full retirement age to 70, he or she gives up 2 monthly checks, the worker check and the spouse, in this case, $1,000 check, or $3,000 a month. True or false? And this is true. So that's one of the things that we're measuring is we're not going to get, if in that case we were going from 67 to 70, we're not going to get $3,000 a month for 3 years. Does it make sense in that case to wait? And depending on your situation, it may make sense to get that higher benefit for a long time. So as we go to our next slide, let's take another test of what we've learned so far. A dependent benefit is not increased by delayed retirement credits, so spouses should claim their dependent benefits at their full retirement age if the worker has already claimed retirement benefit. So what we're highlighting here is that if you wait, you're not going to get any more. So does it make sense to wait? And I'm sure you've concluded that true, if the spouse has already claimed, then the dependent spouse should go ahead and claim their benefit. Okay, as we go to our next slide, let's say alternatively, we have a worker who's older than the spouse. So in this case, the husband at full retirement age, once again, has a primary insurance amount of $2,000. However, wife is 62, and so if she were to take her benefit now, it would be reduced, and her dependent benefit, rather than being $1,000, would be $650. So we go to our next slide. A spousal dependent benefit will be less than 50% of the worker's primary insurance amount if spouse is younger than full retirement age when claiming. It may also be subject to the earnings test. So do you think that's true or false? And one of the things to keep in mind is not only will the number be reduced if she was working, or if he is working, it may also be reduced by the earnings test. So if he's working and the benefit is reduced, it can reduce hers as well. All right, let's go to our next slide. Dual eligibility and deemed filing. What dual eligibility means is you have a married couple and both of them are working. So the spouse here is eligible for a dependent benefit based on their spouse and their own benefit based on their work record. So here we have a husband and wife, both of them work. Husband's primary insurance amount at full retirement age is $2,000. Wife's primary insurance amount at full retirement age is $1,200. Her dependent benefit based on his work is $1,000, so she would get the $1,200. Next slide. What if instead her primary insurance amount was $700? Well, what she would get is the higher number, or the $1,000. That would be the dependent benefit amount. And the way that Social Security calculates it is when they're calculating benefits, they always start with the benefit based on your work record, and they add to it if you're eligible for more. So here we would start with $700, but her dependent benefit would be $1,000. So we add $300 to that, and the amount she would receive is $1,000. All right, next slide. If eligible for both a retirement benefit and a spousal dependent benefit, you receive your retirement benefit, and if it's less than 50% of your spouse's primary insurance amount and excess spousal benefit. So we just saw that that's the way that they calculate it, and so this is going to be true. Okay. In addition, we have to be concerned as a spouse about the survivor benefit. So as a spouse, you're eligible for a dependent retirement benefit, but also when your spouse passes away, the survivor benefit. And a survivor benefit becomes available if the worker is deceased, there was a qualifying marriage, in this case, 9 months, and the survivor is at least age 60, 50 if disabled, and also if caring for the worker's minor or disabled children. So as we talked about with the retirement benefit, let's say in this case, husband passed away and the wife is the widow and caring for minor children. She's eligible for a survivor benefit if she's caring for the minor children until the youngest child turns 16. Then that starts a blackout period, and she's once again eligible for a survivor benefit when she turns 60. All right, next slide. So let's say, once again, we've got spouses who are the same age. Husband's primary insurance amount is $2,000. Then that means at full retirement age, wife's survivor benefit would be $2,000. So you see, one of the things about the survivor benefit is the survivor has the opportunity to take over the amount of the deceased person's benefit. So rather than it being 50%, it can go up to 100%. But it's 100% at full retirement age. If she took earlier, it would be reduced. So let's say that the worker files at 70 and the spouse is the same age. So he waited until 70 to claim his benefit. It was $2,480. He passed away. She's eligible to receive $2,480 as the survivor benefit. All right, next slide. So let's test our knowledge here. While a spouse doesn't receive delayed retirement credits with a dependent benefit, a surviving spouse does receive delayed retirement credits with a survivor benefit. And we just saw that our widow was able to get the amount of her deceased spouse's delayed retirement credits. So let's go to the next slide. So I want to clarify one thing about that. We saw that she got 100% at full retirement age. So she got his delayed retirement credits because he had waited to take the larger retirement benefit. However, if he passed away and she was at full retirement age, she does not get delayed retirement credits waiting until 70 on that survivor benefit. She got them because he had them. But if she were to wait beyond full retirement age after he had passed away, she would not get delayed retirement credits. So when we're talking about a couple, then a 65-year-old woman has a 45% chance that she's going to live till 90. A 65-year-old man has a 33% chance. However, when you're looking at a couple, there's a 63% chance that one of them is going to live to age 90. So the survivor benefit becomes important because whoever is the survivor is going to receive the higher benefit, and it may be important to our retirement income sustainability to make a good choice about when to take that benefit. All right, let's go to our next slide. Spouses with government pensions from employers not covered by Social Security should plan for a reduction in both dependent and survivor benefits due to the government pension offset. Do you think that's true or false? So we talked about the windfall elimination provision and the person's own benefit, but there is another provision that impacts the dependent and survivor benefits, and that's the government pension offset. And so in that situation, you want to be aware of the government pension offset. So let's go to our next slide. because we said that the windfall elimination provision could reduce but would not eliminate your benefit. The government pension offset is a straight 2/3 reduction of the Social Security benefit for the pension amount, and so it could eliminate that benefit. So let's look at another case where we've got a wife who the husband has passed away. His primary insurance amount was $2,000. At 60, she's has the opportunity to take a survivor benefit, and it would be reduced. So in that case, it's $1,430. She could go ahead and take that benefit. And then we go to our next slide. In this case, she has her own work record, so she could let her benefit based on her work record grow. And then when she got to 70, she could switch over to it and take the benefit based on her work record and receive $2,480. With most types of Social Security benefits, one of the changes in the rules was that there's deemed filing. So for most of the benefits, the spouse benefit, your benefit on your work record, when you go to claim it, you are deemed to claim any benefit you're entitled to receive when you file. Survivor benefits are not subject to deemed claiming. And so you can choose when to take the survivor benefit and when to take the benefit on your own work record. So in this case where we had the husband and wife, she could choose when was the best time to take the benefit on her own work record and when was the best time to take the survivor benefit, allowing her to get the higher benefit down the road. We've been focused in on husbands and wives and talking about different benefits, but a reminder that there are other family members who are also eligible for benefits. So there are divorced spouse benefits, married for 10 years, divorced for at least 2, not currently remarried. There are retirement benefits and survivor benefits, operate the same way that they do for the dependent spouse benefits. But for divorced spouse benefits, you have to have been married for 10 years. Children, as we mentioned, eligible for the dependent benefit retirement if they're minor children when a parent claims, and also survivor benefits. And those pay until the child reaches 18, unless they're full-time in high school, then it could go to 19. It also pays for adult disabled children and dependent parents. If someone is providing more than 50% of the support of a dependent parent, those parents can be eligible for survivor benefits. And man, you look at this and you think, wow, that's a lot of people in the pool. That's a lot of money. There's an overall family maximum. So it's 150 to 180% of a person's benefit. So as you start to get more people eligible to receive benefits, then the amount of their benefits reduce. So if you had all of these people, then their benefits would reduce. But these are the different people who are eligible for different types of benefits. Next slide. As I mentioned, for our former spouses, they're eligible for dependent retirement benefit, and so up to 50%. They're also eligible for a survivor benefit. For a divorced spouse, when you're married, your spouse has to have claimed their benefit in order for you to take a dependent benefit. For a divorced spouse, they just have to be eligible. Whether or not they've taken it doesn't impact the divorced spouse's ability to take the dependent benefit. So once again, married for 10 years, divorced for at least 2, not currently remarried. For the survivor benefit, once again, the qualifying marriage is 10 years. You are currently unmarried or you didn't remarry until age 60 or later, and your former spouse is deceased, eligible for the survivor benefit, and it works the way it would for a person who was married. 100% at full retirement age. Earliest you can take it is 60, and it would be a reduced amount. All right, next slide. Since Social Security is funded through a payroll tax, Social Security benefits that you receive are always income tax free. And I can sense shaking of heads out there. So Social Security taxes may be subject to income tax. Social Security benefits may be subject to income tax. So let's go to our next slide. What we're concerned about is combined or provisional income. And what we look at is AGI, add back tax exempt interest, and 1/2 of the Social Security benefits. Then, depending on what that number is, will determine how much of the Social Security benefits have to be included in income. So, if that number is under 25,000 for a single filer, 32,000 married filing jointly, you don't include any of the benefits in taxable income. If it's between that floor and a ceiling of 34,001 for single filers and 44,001 for joint filers, you include 50% of the value of the Social Security benefits in your taxable income. And if it's above that 34,001 and 44,001, you include 85% of the value of the Social Security benefits in your taxable income and then pay tax at your rate. You're not going to pay 85% of the benefits and taxes. It'll be whatever your income tax rate is that will be applied to those Social Security benefits. All right, so next slide. Currently, the Social Security system is on a trajectory to run out of money around 2035 and would stop making any payments in 2036. So we've had a lot of conversation, and it's picked up lately about Social Security and running out of money. And when you hear it referenced that Social Security is going to run out of money, what they're talking about is the Social Security Trust Fund. The majority of Social Security benefits are paid through current collection of the Social Security taxes. What Social Security does is collect taxes from people who are working currently. They use that money to pay the benefits for those who are eligible to receive benefits. And up until recently, if they collected more than they needed, then that went into the trust fund. And then if they don't collect enough, that comes out of the trust fund. So they had been collecting more than they needed. It went into the trust fund. We're getting to that point in time where we're going to start to see a permanent deficit in money coming out of the trust fund. When you hear this 2035 or 2036 number and the trust fund running out of money, what it would mean is if nothing changed between now and then, and we're pretty sure something will change, but maybe a little less confident as we've heard this argument go on for a while. If nothing changes, the trust fund would run out of money and benefits would reduce. So if nothing changed between now and then, currently on track to about 79% benefits being paid when the trust fund ran out of money. So we are starting to see the conversation ramp up and anticipate changes. What will they be? And we don't know that for sure. But when we're looking at Social Security solvency, they're looking at 75 years. What does it take for Social Security to be able to meet its obligations for the next 75 years? And whatever the answer is will be a combination of factors. And CBO has identified 30 different factors that could be adjusted to make Social Security solvent. We're seeing as part of the budget conversation, this issue start to ramp up, but still nothing proposed. So too early to tell, but we're likely going to see changes as we go forward. All right, so our next slide. So if you haven't, please make sure to take a look at your Social Security statement. And what you want to do is go to the Social Security website, and when the screen pops up, it will allow you to create a My Social Security account. It used to be that 3 months before your birthday, you got that paper statement and you opened it up and you could see your benefits, full retirement age 62, full retirement age 70, survivors, disability benefit. And they stopped sending them out, the paper ones out, until you get to 60, and then they start to send it to you. But they have updated the format of the Social Security statements. And so you'll notice a couple of things that are different on those statements now. One is that they're using bar charts with numbers at the different ages to help you guide your decision-making process. You've also maybe see even some change in language, where they used to say 62 was your earliest benefit. Now they say it's your smallest benefit. So that Social Security online statement, if you haven't looked at it, take a look at that. There's also some other interesting information on your paper statement. You used to have your earnings history for every year that you worked. Now it has it for a couple of decades, but then it bunches it. You do want to check your earnings history on the Social Security statement, because if there's an error, it's your responsibility to get it corrected. If you don't correct it with Social Security, then you have to live with that error. So take a look at that. And that may even create some additional questions, but it's providing some more helpful guidance now than it had in the past. And with that, I think that's the end of my presentation. I don't know if we had any questions that came up.
Yes, we have a couple. So one is, can survivor benefits be applied for online, or do you have to go into a physical Social Security office?
No, I think you can apply online, but you have to apply.
Okay. One other, which I think I understand what he was saying, is if a dependent takes the benefit early, let's say at 62, the amount will never increase even when they hit their own full retirement age. Is that correct?
Okay, so if you take your benefit early, you're always going to have a reduction. But if you are that duly eligible person, this is where deemed filing comes into play. So if I'm married and I am working, so I'm eligible for a benefit based on my work record, but also a dependent benefit. If I file at 62, I am deemed to file for any benefit that I'm entitled to receive. So whichever number is higher, they're going to pay me. I don't get to pick and choose. The one place where you could see an adjustment is, let's say that in that situation where my benefit was $700 and I $700 at 62, and my husband hadn't taken his benefit. So now we get to full retirement age and he claims his benefit, and my dependent benefit would have been $1,200. Well, I can get an adjustment up, but I'm not going to get an adjustment up to $1,200. So if I had taken the 700, it would have been 1,000 at my full retirement age. They're going to start with that 1,000 and they'll add 200. So I got 7, I get the 200, so I get 900 instead of 1,200.
Got it. Okay. Another one. How do you find out how many of the 40 credits her and her husband have earned?
The first line on the Social Security statement is it tells you if you're eligible to receive a benefit. So it's on the statement.
Okay. And then does using long-term Social Security disability payments impact your retirement benefits at all?
So somebody who's on disability and not working,
Right.
well, it's going to impact your earnings history. So that question, that was kind of specific. We'd have to take a look at that offline.
Okay. Yeah. Whoever asked that, feel free to send your advisor or somebody at our company an email and we'll dig deeper. For the earnings test, is that, let's say you're married, is that income combined or is it individually earned income?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay. It is compensation for services. So it is your compensation for your services. So if my husband and I retire and all of our income is passive, it doesn't even come into play. We're only living off investment income. It doesn't come into play. It's if I continue to work and I am receiving compensation, reduces my benefit. If I continue to work and receive compensation, does not impact his benefit.
Okay. And I think we had a follow-up. Teresa said she tried to apply for survivor benefits online, but doesn't seem like it's allowing her. So most likely have to go in.
Yeah, in that case, make an appointment at the office, and the offices are opening back up. I guess they should all be open now, and your best bet is make an appointment and go into the office.
Okay. Next one, if I applied for a spousal benefit at age 62, but I'm still working, is a spousal benefit also reduced by $1 for every $2 that I make?
Yeah, the spousal benefits subject to the earnings reduction.
Okay. And then one more just on the current max Social Security value. Just clarifying, as of today, is it $3,627? I think that's the figure you had up.
So that number, if you looked at a chart, it would tell you, and one of the Social Security pieces on their website would tell you the maximum amount of income that was taxed every year. And so if you just looked at that and you ran the calculation, which it's highest 35 years of earnings on a monthly basis added together, divided by 420, that's your average index monthly earnings. And then they have a formula that has replacement ratios in it. And they go to bend points, and the ratio reduces. So it starts at 90%, then 32%, then 15%. When you run that calculation for this year, it works out to be that number. That number will change every year because the amount of income subject to tax changes every year.
Okay. And then what do you see as the most likely outcome to kind of solve this whole issue with Social Security being underfunded? Sounds like a combination of things, but do you think increased payroll tax, increasing the full retirement age? What would you predict?
I think it will be a combination of things. I think that we may see some adjustments for CPI. Level of income that's taxed seems to also show up pretty frequently. One of the things that to keep in mind is as they talk about pushing out the retirement age, not everyone can work later. And some of the people who are most dependent on Social Security benefits for their retirement income are people who have physically demanding jobs. And so that issue becomes more problematic. Now, there was an interesting article that just popped up the other day that said, well, it's usually higher income people who can work longer. So maybe you push it out for those people, but it's got to be a combination, and it has to be a combination that still makes people want to participate in the system, or else there will be some people who figure ways out.
Got it. Okay. And I assume this will probably come to light pretty quickly with the debt ceiling debate that we'll see over the next couple of months, most likely.
Okay, so you've seen some shots fired recently, but no proposals made. And next year's an election year. So we're still 10 years away from the problem. Will they fix it now, or is this going to be another thing that they push off to the next administration, right?
Right. Okay. I don't see any other questions right now. But what I would say, if you do have specific questions, again, email your advisor, email somebody at our firm. We can help run a lot of these scenarios. If it's a little bit more complicated, we can reach out to Michelle, which helps us all the time too. But hopefully we at least gave you a pretty good understanding of the basics of Social Security. And I just want to thank you again from Michelle for your time. And maybe we'll have to do a follow-up on healthcare or some other plans in retirement as well.
Thanks.
Thank you.